All right, so occasionally there are some really good questions on the channel that I think capture part of the essence of what we do here in tech. And so here's one by Freezer Lunick. I hope I'm saying that right, maybe not. But anyway, he asks, or she asks, can you give some more practical examples of what future issues might be? Let's say index size growth is under control, backups are good, online transaction processing is checking along. Now what? Okay, so it is true that I don't know every single environment out there. But let's suppose that those are the only three issues that your environment has going on. For instance, one of the things that I noticed here is you didn't list like checking integrity. I don't know if you are doing that or not, but I would be running CheckDB, for instance, before backing up, or I would be running it at least after backing up. That's an example. Monitoring, updating statistics is another one. I'm thinking off the top of my head, and I realize I shouldn't be doing that. But anyway, so there are some other pieces. But let's suppose you have every one of your bases covered on maintenance, and you don't need to do anything in maintenance. You have the error logs automatically being dumped into a place where you can read that, and everything's working. So if you've truly automated your job and you've truly built everything that you've done to where you face no issues, one of the things that I would suggest for anyone is to look at the business that you work in. Let's say you work in finance, or let's say you work in energy. Great example. With energy prices, some of you know oil prices collapsed, right? What do you think people in tech, if you're in tech, could have done to help a company if they worked in energy? So that's what I mean. Like, I guess the way that I view what I do in terms of work is if I really got to a point where I had nothing that I had to do on a daily basis, I completely automated everything. My goal as someone working for that company is to continue providing as much value for that company as possible, right? So is there anything I could have done from a technology side that would have, helped, let's say, an energy company prepare for a potential oil collapse? Whether that's reducing cost. For instance, as prices are falling, is there a way to reduce costs? Obviously, budgets are going to get tighter, right? So if you're really in that position, where can you still add value in your organization? Okay. In the case of oil, again, using that example, if you were in a position to find new data sources, you may have found a data source that showed that commercial hedgers were taking huge bets against oil. I mean, we're talking bigger bets than they've ever taken against oil, right? Commercial hedgers generally are hedging, right? But they were taking excessive bets against oil, almost as if something was about to collapse, right? Well, if you were in charge of all the data at your company, you may have for instance, I did this at one Wall Street company, but I was in charge of finding new data sources for various things, and for mortgage-backed securities, for bonds, etc. Well, you may have gone out and found that data source that said, hey, look at this. This is kind of interesting, right? So it is true that you may be in a position at your company where you have completely automated every single piece that you need to do, and that's great. Still, your company is facing challenges. Mining companies, by the way, are a good example of that. Your company is always going to face challenges. And I always like to think of it as most people are just going to spend like crazy when the times are good. What my job is to do is to always be thinking ahead. What happens when my company that is, enters a recession? How can I still show that I can add value by, if the company suddenly needs to cut back, I can help it cut back, right? And when you do that, let me put it this way. If a company, sends you to the unemployment line, they're crazy, right? So that's one of the ways in which you're always adding value in the good times and the bad. If you get to a point where you've done every single bit, all of that, everything, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. When you get to that point, actually in the comments, let me know what you're supposed to do.